So let's jump right in. Jason, come on in.
Hey, Brett.
Awesome. Good to see you again.
You too. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. Tell me a little bit about what you do. What is Novus Global and what do you do for it?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of your folks have already, who are watching, have already seen some of our amazing coaches. I think John Roberts and Dan Lafleur did a workshop this morning, and we have another workshop after this. Is that right?
Yeah, we have one more coming up.
Yeah, with Janet. So you'll get to get a taste of what it is we do. But the simple way to say it is we're an executive coaching firm. So we've got about 25 coaches on 3 different continents, and we get to work with people in a lot of different verticals, from professional athletes to people running multi-billion-dollar companies to artists and entertainers, to the gamut. And we really enjoy working with people who are way more talented than we are and throwing some gravel under their tires to help them go even faster.
Yeah, that's amazing. Has work changed during the crisis? Are you getting more calls of people who need coaching, less calls? What's happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. And some things stay the same and some things don't change. And one of the benefits of being the kind of work that we're in is we're primed for this kind of event. So a lot of people use the word crisis. We tend to use the word rapid change. It kind of neutralizes things a little bit. And we have, on our end, the calls go up because people, one is, as companies have to make hard choices, and then the people who are left after those hard choices have to be able to do more with less. And so they're bringing us in to help with that. And that's an honor to work with those folks doing that. And a lot of our coaches, it's been fun to be generous during the season. So like one of our coaches, Johan Kalilian, is doing some free coaching with people who've been laid off or on furlough. So it's just opening up a huge need for people to have support and for people to have an advocate and for people to provide a unique kind of conversation that we provide. So the louder the world gets, the more important it is for people to be able to think clearly, and we really enjoy helping people with that.
What was the term you used to describe instead of crisis?
Rapid change.
Rapid change. I will attribute it to you, but I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true that crisis tends to, obviously imply an enormous amount of negativity. Rapid change does imply a little bit of positivity, optimism, the ability to adapt to it. I love that. Yeah. I'd love to know a little more. So you say that there's a lot of generosity happening. People are offering their time, and, people think about charity all the time. They don't necessarily think of coaching as, something that is incredibly valuable and can be even more valuable than money during this time. I'm sure there's a lot of business owners that would value, they don't need money, they need insight, they need advice, they need guidance. Is that your experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, what they need is, a few sayings, and actually this is a saying from 12-step recovery. There's a saying in 12-step recovery that says, your best thinking got you here. And other times in recovery, they'll say, by the way, I spent 4 years in recovery, so I love that culture, I love that space. And wow. Another phrase I learned there was, you're stinking thinking. And so everybody has a way of thinking. Everyone has like an algorithm that they're running. Everyone has these beliefs that they've had for a long time that they don't realize that they have, that become like the wallpaper that you just get used to. And then after a while, you stop even noticing. And it's really hard to notice your own thinking because it's between your own ears. And so what people need are people who are not stuck between their ears, to hold a space for them to notice and provide other types of algorithms, other types of thought in real time in a relational context, for them to see how their thinking is creating the very things that they say they don't want in their lives. And that's, so like in crisis, I don't know if anyone's experienced this, but like in crisis, you get really scared. You get really frustrated. You get really angry. And like for me, when I go through like I'll use crisis for vernacular. When I go through a change that I don't like, that's a rapid change you don't like is what we call a crisis.
Yeah.
And when I go through those things, I start avoiding things. I start reacting versus responding. There's all these things that Homo sapiens as a species do that don't necessarily help us move forward in the things that we care about. And it's really helpful to have a friend, a confidant, a mentor, an advocate, a coach, like whatever you want to call it, who is not drunk on the amygdala hijack that you're going through, who can hold a space and hold smelling salts and help you lead yourself into a new season.
Yeah, I mean, I own a small business as well, and I'm living it at the same time. And I've been, feeling those same emotions. And what's interesting is so much conversation is happening about, a lot of people are looking to government for relief. A lot of people are looking to, the state. And I don't know if enough businesses know about the other tools that are available, like yourselves. The idea that it's going to be more than a PPP loan or an EIDL grant that is going to bail out a company from this. There's a human element to it. What else do you think, in terms of that human element that business owners should consider, that we should be thinking beyond trying to figure out how to save money? Are there any other like specific or non-specific tips that we should be considering that we would come to you for?
Yeah, well, first of all, Brett, that's really well said in terms of where we look. And by the way, I want to say up front, I'm a huge fan of elected officials, and that's a weird thing, like in government, and not just because of the PPP loans, but I'm friends with Mayor Asia Brown. She's the mayor of Compton, youngest mayor in the history of Compton. She was 31 when she became mayor. So Any of you watching, if you ever thought about running for office but you think you're too young, you should talk to Asia. And so they're doing noble work, and walking with her during the season is fascinating. Like, how does the city of Compton handle this? And she and her team have been unbelievable in serving the people of Compton. That being said, I would say oftentimes people, including myself, by the way, like this is human. So one thing we say oftentimes is don't ever hire a coach who doesn't have a coach. So if you're ever talking to someone and you're saying, and they're wanting to coach you, first question is, tell me about your coach. Tell me about your coaching relationship. So I get to work with one of the best coaches in the world. Before COVID happened, I would fly to his office twice a month and then spend 2 hours and then fly home. And so because I can't do surgery on myself, no one in the firm, we have a saying, everybody has a next level. No one can get there by themselves. Like, we all need support. And it doesn't have to be professional support, but oftentimes professional support is great. So, and what I was going to say briefly is, most of the time when we're experiencing rapid change or crisis, or when we're trying to solve a problem where we feel stuck, 9 times out of 10, we think that the resource challenge we're experiencing is external, when in reality, 9 times out of 10, the resource challenge we're experiencing is internal. We actually have an internal resource challenge. And the difference between a person who's going to thrive during the season and the difference between a person who's only going to survive or even really struggle during the season is their internal world, their internal resources. When John and Dan talked this morning about integrity, that's an internal conversation. It's not an external conversation. And getting clear on those internal conversations, getting clear on what your internal resources are, is 90% of the battle. And then what's fascinating is the more you pay attention to your internal resources, the more external resources begin appearing, and it feels like magic, or it feels like miracles, or it feels like I'm not talking about The Secret or whatever, but it feels like it makes things easier, not because the world has gotten easier, but because you're choosing to look at the world in a new way.
Right. Well, yeah, that's interesting. You referenced The Secret. I'm not a huge subscriber, but as I understand it, it's the idea that things kind of come to you if you will for them. But what you described is a little bit more the opposite, which is you have to look internally. You have to understand what your internal resources are, and you need to learn and practice how to access them. Integrity being one of them. Are there any other, top of mind internal resources that you feel are the types of things that examples of what we should be thinking about for reaching for internally?
Man, Brett, you're asking me all my favorite questions.
So, by the way, we're making these up right now, right?
Yeah. So if this is helpful, this is very passionate. I'm very passionate about this. It's very important to me. So our firm, Novus Global, has 6 core values. And when you ever hear about companies talking about values, usually that's when I would zone out if I were you, or there's mission statements and things like that. But we take our values really seriously. In fact, every week we spend time wrestling with the values. And oftentimes what we say with coaching is, coaching isn't a vocation, it's a way of life. And we like it that way. We picked coaching, all the coaches in our firm across the world, pick this sacred vocation because of what it does to us while we're serving people. The better you get as a person, the more powerfully you can serve others. And by better, I mean like the better, the more decent you become, the more noble you become, the more powerfully you can serve your clients and the people that you care about. And I'll say this briefly, like I was meeting with someone today that is helping us design a new contract for this $40 billion company that we're working with. And we were referencing some other folks that I'm coaching in their organization. And I started tearing up. Like I want so badly for our clients to be successful and for them to have the life of their dreams and for them to discover what it means to be fully alive. And so this is personal for us. And so to say these, so there's 6 core values, and it's an acronym, and the acronym is Go Live, which is what we want people to do. Like we want our clients to go live. We want companies to go live. We want to create go live cultures. We want artists to live. We want entrepreneurs to go live, you know? Yeah. And so the G stands for growth. And a lot has been written about this. Carol Dweck, you hear about the growth mindset, those types of things. That's very important, like paying attention to a growth mindset versus a disempowered mindset, or some people call it victimized mindset. That's incredibly important. The second, the O, stands for ownership versus blame. Like, are you blaming the world? Are you blaming your employees? Are you blaming your team? Are you blaming COVID? Are you blaming the market? Are you blaming whatever? Or are you taking, I think there's a great book called Radical Ownership, written by a Navy SEAL. Like, are you taking responsibility for your world? The L stands for love. And we define that as like fierce advocacy. Like there's soul in the game. Like when I coach my clients, I play for the love of the game. Like I don't want to do it for the money. I want to do it because to serve people is what lights me up. And then the I stands for integrity, which is what John and Dan talked about. I know you recorded that, so maybe they could get that from you later. And then the V stands for vision, which is actually what Janet is going to talk about after this session, or after the session after this. And then the E stands for energy, which is understanding that your life and your beliefs custom create and expand or detract the energy that you have, and bringing whatever energy is necessary to whatever situation you're facing in order to be successful. So those are like the 6 different conversational domains that we really value.
That's a beautiful framework. That I read a lot of books with a lot of frameworks and a lot of acronyms. So
yes.
Right now, that content is what we got to get out there in the world, because I speak to an enormous number of other business owners, small, medium, large, and they are in search. And what they do is they spend half their day obsessing over government guidance in the PPP loan, or, reopening back up and all these different things, and not enough time figuring out what they can do right now. What can we do right now? And some of the framework you described sounds like a decent blueprint to, to give to some business owners. And we know that, and I keep obsessing over the government because I do feel that is the only person that publicly has been available, or universally has been available. Yeah. And we have to realize that there's so much more, and that help can come faster while we wait for, people to figure Congress to figure out the next aid package, or the state of California, where I am, to figure out, when they're going to open up and all these different things. There's so much that can be done that's available in the private sphere or in an alternative sphere. So I like these frameworks a lot. I'd like to flip it over to
actually, I want to brag on you for a second. So I like that you're saying that. And one of the things that I love about the FutureParty is because a lot of people look at government as the only community that can help them. But there are lots of communities there's like a lot of resource out there. Even for us as a firm, we want to be, our dream is to have a tribe of 10,000 world-class coaches all over the world. And we all could do it by ourselves, but we choose to do it together because we believe that we're more powerful together. We can share best practices. We can help each other level up. There's a romance. We want to be like the Camelot of coaching. Like we just want to create this thing. And when I, by the way, I love the FutureParty. It's the only email that I get in my daily email inbox that I look forward to reading. Like I get news things. I delete those now because everything's so depressing. And it's all like anger bait or anxiety bait. The FutureParty is the only email I get where I'm like, man, this is relevant. This is helpful. This helps me think like a creative. It helps me think about the future. And I know that I'm not the only person dialoguing around this. And so I think your community, the community that, the folks that you all work with are creating, is an example of an ecosystem. And then there's like EO, there's YPO, there's an organization I'm a part of called Gen Next, like find your tribe. I can't tell you how many young leaders and young entrepreneurs are tribeless, almost as like a badge of honor, almost like, I'm a lone ranger and proud of it. And man, that is brutal. Like that is, you're working so hard, and it could be easier and more fun, and you could grow faster if you just take advantage of the resources that are available to you outside of a PPP loan. So now you can, I wanted to say the Future Party is a great example of that.
I very much appreciate that. I'm a small part of it as well. And that's that, but not nearly as much as the visionaries who created the Future Party. And this was their goal. And I don't think that we connected the dots until we saw a really big crisis and said, how can we combine the powers of the Future Party's sister company, NVE, and the Future Party's extraordinary network and extraordinary community, and bring this piece of content that where everyone's watching right now. So that's really amazing. I sincerely hope that these pieces of content we create help people.
And by the way, that's it. That's the love piece. It's a lot of business people right now are asking, where do I need to go to get? And I feel like the people who are going to really thrive during the season are saying, where can I go to give? Where can I go to serve? And, we say this in the firm sometimes, the people who are serving today are the ones who are going to be leading tomorrow. And it doesn't mean, some people I can imagine are watching this and thinking, I don't have any money. Like, what can I give? I don't have any money. I don't have an amazing platform like you all do, and all those types of things. And you have more than you think. Not more necessarily more money than you think. You probably have less money than you think. But you have relationships, you have opportunities, you have networks, you have talent, you have time, like whatever it is you have. If you start seeking to give that and to serve, that will make you valuable, and that will make you marketable. And he or she who serves first wins.
Yeah, that's perfect as a transition point to looking a little bit more at the individuals. I feel like the first part of this conversation, we've talked a little bit about on the executive level, business level, how do we, give executives and business leaders the tools to, power through this rapid change. And, for me, I talk to a lot of friends who are having this existential crisis, and they're having it on different fronts. Some are just, having it because they're uncertain. Is my job safe? Am I going to be able to, continue doing this? There's, a tremendous amount of uncertainty. Another crisis I feel is, my friends have told me, this has caused me to really reevaluate my priorities. And I'm not sure this is what I want to do. I've heard this big difference. Finally, people creating distinction between passion and purpose, and trying to say, what should I pursue? Should I pursue my passion, or should I pursue my purpose? And I don't have the answer. Do you have any of the answers?
Obviously, no. But I do have thoughts.
Thoughts work.
Yeah, a few things, and there's a lot in there, and I appreciate that, and you can interrupt me whenever you want. But the first thing you mentioned, which I really like, is this idea of what do you do when things are uncertain? And what's interesting about rapid change is rapid change doesn't increase uncertainty. Rapid change exposes how much uncertainty was there that we forgot about. So, if oftentimes people who work in large organizations feel safe because they work in a large organization. It's like, then this happens and you realize that your job can disappear at any moment. When people die, it reminds us of the fragility of life. And so, Brett, you and I were talking a few days ago, and I think certainty is overrated. I think it's I think it's an illusion. When I say we want to have 10,000 coaches all over the world, am I certain about that? No, that could be a horrible idea. And so the question is, what do you replace certainty with? And this is what I want to suggest to individuals is the more you can let go of a need for certainty, the happier and healthier you'll be. And replace certainty with conviction. Like rather than most people want to do something only if it works. In fact, oftentimes what I'll say when I speak and do different things, I'll say there are some things that are only worth doing if they work, and then there are other things that are not worth doing even if they work. Then I say, but there are some things that are worth doing whether they work or not. And I think for leaders and for individuals, I want to invite you into getting clear on what are the things that are worth going after in your life, whether they work or not. And I'll give you an example. Like I'm divorced, and people often, and it really was a pretty painful experience as my life imploded. 7 years ago, I was homeless. It was devastating financially, all these types of things. And people ask me, do you regret getting married, knowing what was going to happen and all that kind of stuff? And I'm like, it's a weird question. It's like, no, like love is that thing. Love is always worth it. If you love somebody, even if it doesn't go the way you want, it's worth it. And so like find the things that you love. Now in the same token, there's another phrase that I use a lot because especially with coaching, a lot of people like want to get into coaching, want to dabble in coaching. We have Janet, who's going to be here later, is a director of our institute, which is an 18-month program that trains people how to do what we do. And so we have people coming to us who have other jobs or quitting jobs to start coaching. And I always tell people this, and this is worth writing down for anyone who's listening: earn the right to quit. Like if you're thinking about transitions or whatever, like the universe does not owe you a smooth career transition. And I cannot tell you how many people quit their jobs to become ballerinas or whatever it is they're up to. And it's like a gun to their heads, and it just explodes so many parts of their life. And if you're like, well, Jason's just making us more scared. I'm like, yeah, like, especially in times of like rapid change, like be an adult. Like some people need to be told to grow up and realize that the world doesn't owe you a career that you love, that you have to carve that out. Like Michelangelo carved David out of the marble. Like it is work. And so earn the right to quit, I'll give you a small example of what that means. If you're thinking about making transitions, you want to moonlight as long as possible. Like you want to have your income be replaced with your moonlighting gig as much as possible before you quit the other gig. So for a while you're making double income, and then you quit and you go back. And that's what I did, right? When I transitioned from the thing I was doing to running a company, I found a way to orchestrate this to where my household income didn't change as I made this pivot. And otherwise, I just see so many people make the jump and it just blows up. And I do not recommend that, especially in times of rapid change.
There's a story, I think it's in one of Adam Grant's books, Give and Take, about the Warby Parker guys and how they all kept their day jobs when they were starting Warby Parker. And so 10 out of 11 VC firms turned them down because they're like, they don't believe in their idea so much. And why would I do this? And the 11th group came in and said, well, they're smart enough to hedge their bet and create stability, and they're not going to be desperate to take money off the table and all these things. And of course, we can imagine how that investment all went for everybody. So I drew a parallel when you said that, the idea that you should experience things, and now might be a better time than ever for people to try moonlighting and doing these other things and exploring what their actual purpose is versus just their passion.
That's great. And Brett, I think what we're going to see is people are forced to moonlight because of the economic transition, right? Mm-hmm. So you're forced to pick up 2 or 3 or 4 jobs. And what you don't realize is that's gonna give you a competitive advantage, right? That's going to give you don't know, like right now our firm are playing with things that we've been like thinking about for a while, but now it's like, let's go. Like we're playing with 24/7 coaching. Like we're playing with like having a coach on call where our clients can call us anytime before going into a meeting or whatever. We're playing with that for the first time. We're playing with like text coaching. Some of our coaches are like doing texting via DM and things like that. And it's a fantastic way to serve people at a much lower rate. These are things we could have done 6 months ago or a year ago, and we didn't have the impetus for it. But now that's going to turn into whole verticals for us. And at the company level, at the human level, the individual level, like it's like, oh shit, and part of my it's like now I gotta pay the bills, and now you start finding ways of paying the bills, and you're gonna stumble onto things that you never realized you could monetize. And I think this is gonna. Of course, I am sad and grieving with people who are experiencing hardship right now, and people experiencing loss and fear and all those types of things. And I feel that. I think we all do. And at the same time, in parallel, in tandem, and we talk about, one of my favorite leadership quotes, Brett, is leadership is the art of mastering paradox. And so usually there's like these two things that are together. And for us, it's like grief and growth, right? It's this idea like being empathetic and sad and asking, how can I serve? And then this thing, growth, like, how can I make this the best thing that ever happened to me? And I think we're going to experience a Cambrian explosion of entrepreneurship, of creativity, of new verticals, of new ways of creating value. And it's like frankly, it's like right now, people don't realize it. Right now, it's like a gold rush.
Yeah.
For people who can like sober up, it is a talent gold rush right now.
Right. Well, I think it's, the issue is that so many of us look at what we have right in front of us. Hey, today I've got to figure out rent, and are there any ways, any practices to change that mindset? I mean, you've mentioned a bunch, like thinking about what the resources you have now, but what's step one, if you had any ideas on what that would be?
Yeah, one of my mentors is a guy named Mark Jordan. He actually has a resource we can cross-reference, and I'll get you that later. He did a video for people who are in that situation, and he's incredible. He's a mergers and acquisitions guy, very, very successful and very wise, and like definitely worked his way up. Like wasn't born wealthy or anything like that. And I admire him a lot. And he talks a lot about this is the phrase. None of this stuff is things that people are going to like, but it's do what you need to do, and do it faster than you think you need to do it. So I think there's a lot of creatives in a lot of different urban environments in our country who are waiting for it to get better. And that is a massive mistake. I was just on the phone with a huge company talking about the projections of like the recession lasting until like 2023. And no one likes to hear that. Like no one likes to prepare for, and they don't know, like they're making decisions right now, trying to guess if it's going to be a 1-year thing or a 36-month thing. And one of my heroes from this season, right in the first week, I live in LA like you do, right in the first week of quarantine, like the first 48 hours, I ordered Postmates, and a woman delivered the food. She was like a few minutes late. She apologized, and I didn't even realize she was late. And she says, "I'm sorry." She said, "Yesterday I was a travel agent." And
wow.
That conversation happened so fast, and she hopped in her car and then drove away. And I wish if I would have been more present to that moment, I would have stopped her politely and said, "I am so proud of you." Because she could have been like, "I'm just going to live off of savings for 3 months and then see what happens." But immediately she learned how to do Postmates. It was obvious she didn't know what she was doing. Like she didn't wait. She just jumped in, and like that, she's my hero.
Wow.
That's incredible. She is acting. I make up in my mind that she like got a roommate, did Postmates, like did all the things that she doesn't want to do. There's very little things like that you can undo. You can always get your HBO subscription back. So it's not going anywhere. They want you to have it, So I really believe in protecting the vitals. I believe in finding how inexpensively you can live, and saving. Like all the coaches in our firm, we celebrate in the firm when people hit the 3-month savings, 6-month savings, 9-month savings, 12-month savings. I don't have one boss. I have 6 clients at any given time. So like I have 6 bosses, and they can fire me whenever they want. And so it's important to just be prepared for that kind of thing, like Scar taught us to be in The Lion King. It's really important. And remember this moment. There's a reason why our grandparents stockpile food when they went through the Depression. Like this is gonna train a lot of us to think differently. It's not always up and to the right, and how to prepare and get ahead of the game. And now's the perfect time. Now's the perfect time to delay rent checks and save, or to do whatever it is the government's helping you with, and really be responsible financially.
Yeah, that's such great insight right there. I like that you say we're going to remember this moment. I live a little differently by those beliefs, because my business is creating moments for people. It's what I've done since I think my high school prom was my first event. And I really believe life is measured in moments, and time is almost irrelevant a lot of the time, because we really look back at my 21st birthday, my 30th birthday, my best friend getting married. These moments are measures of milestones, not necessarily 2020. And this is one of those defining moments. I really sincerely believe that we will find that we draw from this, and that poses a question to you. Do you think that we will draw from this experience forever, for a long time? How long, how much will this impact us? And do you think that we will look back on it and ask and use the learnings that we could have here if we really analyze it?
That's I'll say this briefly. How you choose to look at this will determine a lot about how you design your life and your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So people with a growth mindset, people with an ownership mindset, people who are committed to love and service, people who are committed to integrity and having a vision that inspires them and others, and who let that generate energy for them. I just walked through GoLive real quick. Like people who are committed to that are going to look back at this season and not wish it on anybody, but not trade it for anything. And I can tell you, I call my nephews almost every day. The younger one never answers. I FaceTime and he blocks me. And then the older one, the 15-year-old, we answer, we talk, and then he goes down and shows the younger one who's playing video games or whatever, hey, this is Jason. I tell him I love him. I talk to them more than I ever have in my life, and not because it's natural, but because that's what we're choosing for each other in this season. And I think there's you mentioned passion and purpose, and I think we talked about this last time. I define passion as that which you're willing to suffer for. And I think during this time, it reveals what you're willing to suffer for, and relationships and creating value and serving others, I think, are things worth suffering for all the time. And this horrible thing is giving us an opportunity. This is we have the ability to make this our finest hour.
Yeah.
I think, right. Go ahead.
Well, when you say things that you're willing to suffer for, I find it interesting because I think a lot of the time we have, somewhere in the back of our brain indexed our passions. And you ask me, I'm like, oh, I really like cooking, and, I really wish I could play the guitar, and, I want to travel, etc. Yeah. This massive change has actually opened up the opportunity for us to discover the things that we are willing to struggle for, right? And we might find new things in that area that we may not have discovered. So definitely a big opportunity there to figure that out, right?
I agree. It's well said. And I like your definition of purpose, like shifting from passion, like the kind of, oh yeah, I like to do this, I like to do this, I like to do this, to purpose, which is like this nuclear fusion thing in your soul.
Yeah.
And Tom Bilyeu's got some great stuff on that. He talks about you don't discover your purpose, you create it. And you do that through the hammering of life. And, do we want to go to the questions? Because some of these are relevant to what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. So questions that have been coming in. It looks like there's a bunch. First, Hannah wrote, so how did you get into coaching, and what shifting in your life mindset? Shifting in your life mindset.
Yeah. Possibly past tense. Let's go with the past tense.
Yeah.
Two short answers there. I was a precocious little sucker as a kid. My sister, who's also part of the firm, actually created our institute. She's smarter than I am, but and then I was in her wake, so I got to be around smart people when I was a kid. So I was raised by people. I was raised being around people smarter than me, and I have a fierce, and people who John and Dan and Janet can. I have this compulsive. Have always had this compulsive, maybe unhealthy, addictive need to do something significant, like make a difference, and to invite other people into that same, to say, for people to wake up and say, my life really matters, and what I'm doing matters to me, and it's making my life better and other people's lives better. That's like part of my DNA. That's, if you cut me, that's what I bleed. And fast forward and how I got into coaching was my life fell apart. My marriage ended and all that. And so then, when your life falls apart, you're looking for resources. And first I found 12-step and therapy and all those types of things, and those are super helpful. And then my buddy Nathan Neighbor invited me to talk to, who's a coach, invited me to talk to this guy named Dan Tacchini, who is like this old Al Pacino, gravelly voiced guy, Italian guy. And I drove down to the OC where he was living with his wife at the time, and we had this totally corporate, awful little center. We sat down in these chairs that they're made of metal, but they're not. and we had a conversation that changed my life. And I was like, who is this guy? How does he see the world? It was like the conversation was cutting, but like in a way that I could tell was like loving. And I did everything I could to get into his ecosystem and got trained by him and years ago. And then I was hooked. I was like, this is awesome. I can't believe I get to do this for a living. And that's how I got into coaching.
What an unbelievable, amazing, extraordinary story. I mean, if anyone takes away anything from this conversation, it's the ability to reinvent yourself, to reimagine yourself, to develop a new DNA that is how you're going to approach the world and then channel that into your career.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you, Brett. I love that. I love the reinvention. Like I look up to like Oprah and Dwayne Johnson, and even, this is controversial, but I shouldn't. Even a little bit, Donald Trump. Like
that's okay.
Yeah, because not like Hitler or anything, but like they reinvented themselves. You know, they and it takes a lot of courage to reinvent yourself. So we'll stay away from the controversial ones. I think most people like Oprah and The Rock. But like The Rock was a football player and a failed football player, then a wrestler, and then an actor, and then a producer, and now he's a media mogul. And now he might run for office. You know, like that's impressive to me. And we call that meta performance. We call that reinventing your DNA.
It's a great story, and it gives us all like a very interesting blueprint to figure out how some people may need to approach that, or want to approach that, or be terrified to approach that, and realize it can work. So
Sorry, as an aside, I know these questions are important. As an aside, when I was going, if you can't afford a coach, go to 12-step. The first coach I ever hired was $75 an hour. In fact, his name was David Gerber, and he's now a coach in our firm, and he was a gift to me. And so $75 an hour, and so that's what? That's like $150 if you do twice a month, $150 a month. Like, give up Starbucks, give up drinking, get rid of your streaming services. It is totally worth that. And I was like sleeping on couches, you know, when I hired David. And it doesn't. I'm not selling coaching in this conversation. I'm saying if you're watching this and you are not intentionally investing in yourself in some way, man, the world is missing out. Like the world is really missing out on you. And there are free versions, there are cheap versions, it was in quotes, like affordable versions, and then of course there's more luxurious options. And do yourself a favor and invest in yourself. That's
awesome. So another question from Jake is, how does mindfulness relate to career growth?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. You know, I tend not to resonate with the mindfulness school. It's good. It's good. It's valuable, and in some ways, I suppose, Jake, it depends what you mean by mindfulness. So I'm gonna define it for you, and I'm probably gonna misdefine it, and so I apologize for that in advance. I think if we look at that as like tending to how you're designing your experience, like tending to your conscious experience. I think it's very difficult to grow without tending to your conscious experience. And one of the things that coaches or friends or mentors or people help you discover is how to not only notice. Oftentimes meditations about noticing your mind. Coaching or mentoring, other things are about redesigning your mind. And most people think, okay, what's my mind, and then let my mind create what I want in life. With coaching, it's ontological. It inverses that process. We say, what do you want out of life, and then how do you need to design your mind, or who do you need to become in order to create whatever it is that you're wanting? And so that's growth. So that's my probably pretty bad answer to that, Jake.
That's really interesting. That's an interesting angle on it all. I mean, I don't practice enough mindfulness, but I'm told over and over again that it's incredibly effective. So. To my sister who could be watching, I promise I'll try. So the next question Boyer has, how exactly can we tell our own story? Yeah,
my instinct is to ask for more clarity, because and this is going to sound kitschy, but like you are telling your own story. That's all you can do. You know, so even if like your story is pretending to be someone else's story, like if I'm trying to be like The Rock. That's my story. The story of Jason Jaggard is a guy who's trying to be like The Rock. But if what you mean is, if what you mean is like, how do I find like my authentic voice? or how do I find my authentic self? Like, I'm a big fan. I think George Bernard Shaw said, we don't discover ourselves, we create ourselves. So I'm not really searching for who I am. I'm searching for who I long to be. And I think there's a distinction there. And like in our firm, we say authenticity isn't about like how you're wired. Authenticity is about what you're committed to, and rewiring yourself based on what you're committed to. So asking people, so a question I might ask everybody here, if you want to like tell your story, is to get really clear on what you're committed to. Your life is the sum total and the perfect reflection of what you're committed to. So if you don't like your life, it's time to reevaluate your commitments.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I think this is our last question, depending on how long we have to answer it. But from Hannah, it's an interesting one. How do you integrate two passions toward one or multiple paths? You know, yeah. I don't even know where to go with that. Maybe you should.
I think I'm going to give my answer, and I think you would have given a similar type answer because you're an entrepreneur. My guess is you're addicted to efficiencies. So I'll just give you the landscape. So in my world, in our world, our firm, there's 3 companies. There's actually 4 companies. There's a parent company, and there's 3 companies. I think we talked about this last time. There's the firm, the executive coaching firm, and Janet and John and Dan are all coaches in the firm. Then there's the Institute for Meta Performance, and that is a school, like we're not messing around, not like a cheap little 3-month thing to call yourself a life coach, but like we kind of adopt you for 18 months and train you how to build a thriving practice. And that's a separate company. Janet is the director of that company while being a coach in the firm, and John and Dan are hired by that company to be faculty, and I'm hired. Janet occasionally, if she's feeling generous, will hire me to be faculty of that school. And then there's the studio. And the studio is where we create content, podcasts, videos, eventually non-scripted or scripted. Like we want to see that grow. And so those 3, you can imagine, Hannah, if that's who asked, you can imagine how those 3 companies synergize with each other. And by the way, there's like 5 other things I could tell you about. So it's like learning to think, right? Like, so when a $10 billion company hires us to do coaching, but they want media elements to that, then we hire the studio to do the media elements for the coaching. And like when we're training people how to coach, that's our farm team. So we're training people how to coach, and then that becomes a farm team in which we grow, because now we have these homegrown people. That, by the way, the 18-month institute, then we redact to a 5-month program that we sell to companies to train people how to manage like a coach. So everything synergizes with each other, and that's like nirvana for me. Like that is heaven for me, when I can like skip a stone across a pond and it bounces multiple times. And I would say, Hannah, that's part of the artistry of a life well lived, is how can we have it all, and how can we weave it all into things that synergize. Mark Jordan, I told you earlier, this is a good thing ending. He said you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. And what I might say is you can't have everything you want right now. So I've got like a 50-year plan about what I'm up to, and of course everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. But that's what I'm up to. And Hannah, it's a blast. I love that.
Wow, that's amazing. Thanks for that insight. I agree. You're right. As an entrepreneur, we create a plan. There's only so much that circumstance changes that plan. But staying true to it and looking for. I'm really interested to start looking more internally based on this conversation. Thanks for the free coaching class. Like, what are those, integrity, those values that I can pull internally that are resources that aren't about money, that aren't about time, that are about thinking these things through and committing the effort to do it. So that's really awesome. Well, is there anything else that, is there any parting words that you have for a nice big group of people that are, interested in how to find their purpose and, how to own their narrative in this time?
Yeah. I would say, I really believe this. I would say 2 things. One is you have way more potential than you realize. You are packed. You are loaded. You are stuffed, full of talent, even if you don't see it, and capacity, even if you don't see it. And so that's very important. The other thing I'll mention is the healthiest way to express all of that potential is through your character. So you want to really pay attention to your character. Character creates. And if you don't like the life you're creating, looking at your commitments and look at your character. And then the final thing is, I actually believe that people have a moral imperative to explore what they're capable of in terms of creating value in the world in a way that leaves the world better than when they found it. And I think it's one of the great privileges of being alive. I think the meaning of life or the purpose of life is exploring how much good I can create. My coach says, Jason, I think the reason why I'm alive is to see how many people a human being can love in one lifetime. And I think that's exactly right. And he charges $150,000 a year to work with him, $200,000 a year to work with him. And so he's doing well and he's doing good. He bought his house. He owned his house from 1993. He gives away almost all of his money. And that sounds like a good life to me. So I want to invite you into that same thing. That's what I'm passionate about. It's what our coaches are passionate about. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what the Future Party is passionate about. So Brett, thanks for having me.
So is. Thank you so much. Again, Jason, you're amazing, everybody. Just clap at home right now for Jason Jaggard, founder, CEO of Novus Global. I'm just, really excited. So you guys are awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
and Jason, we'll talk soon. Take care.
Yeah, man. It's really great to hang out with you.
Yeah, you too. We'll do it again. I can't wait.
What's up? It's Boy A from the Future Party here in space, chilling. Hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for more notifications. We've got some amazing things coming up. Check out the description on who the Future Party is. It's going to be great.